The mission briefing room was silent when the satellite images appeared on screen. Colonel Rachel Torres had been planning strikes for 12 years, but she'd never seen anything like this. "Gentlemen," she said quietly, "Iran just moved its entire stock of enriched uranium to Fordow. All of it. In one location. They think burying it under a mountain makes it safe." She clicked to the next slide. "They're wrong. The pilots in that room knew what was coming. Some had families waiting at home. Some had flown combat missions before. But none of them had ever been asked to do something this big, this complex, this absolutely critical to get right." June 19, 2025. 24 hours before the largest coordinated strike since World War II. And I'm going to walk you through every decision, every risk, every moment of terror and triumph. Because what you're about to witness isn't just military power. It's human beings making impossible choices under impossible pressure. Hit subscribe right now, because this story has twists you won't see coming. Let me ask you something. If you knew a country was 6 months from building a nuclear weapon, and diplomacy had failed, what would you do? President's decision wasn't made lightly. For 18 months, sanctions had tightened. Negotiations had collapsed. Intelligence reports showed Iran accelerating enrichment beyond anything previously documented. Then came the intelligence coup that changed everything. A source inside Iran's nuclear program, codenamed Nightingale, transmitted detailed schematics of Fordow's new layout. Not just building positions. Exact depth of each facility. Structural weaknesses. Air shaft locations. Shift change times. But Nightingale's final message was chilling: they're consolidating everything. All enriched material moved to Fordow by June 20th. After that, it disperses to 12 hidden sites. You'll never find it all. This is your only chance. One location. One window. One shot. The President authorized Operation Steel Resolve at 0300 on June 19, mission launch, 36 hours. Have you ever had to make a decision where hesitation meant losing everything? Tell me in the comments. Here's where the operation gets brilliant and terrifying. Instead of launching B-2s from Missouri, planners made a different call. Stage the bombers forward to Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Cut the flight time. Reduce refueling requirements. Get crews closer to target. But that created a new problem. Iranian satellites watched Diego Garcia constantly. The moment B-2s landed there, Tehran would know something was coming. So they created a deception within a deception. For B-2s did fly to Diego Garcia, but they landed in broad daylight. Deliberately visible to overhead surveillance. Iranian intelligence went wild. Reports flooded Tehran's command centers. American stealth bombers forward deployed. Strike imminent. Iran went to maximum alert. Air defenses activated. Fighters on hot standby. Every radar in the country searching the skies. But those 4 B-2s at Diego Garcia? They were decoys. The real strike package, 3 bombers, had launched from Whiteman Air Force Base 8 hours earlier under cover of a massive thunderstorm system. Iranian satellites saw nothing. American radar tracking showed routine training. Flights over the continental U.S. By the time Tehran figured it out, those 3 bombers were already over the Atlantic. Can you imagine being the intelligence analyst who fell for this? Your entire career spent watching for threats, and the real danger slipped past while you were looking the wrong direction? But bombers alone weren't enough. Not against the most heavily defended nuclear site on Earth. Enter the Wolf Pack. 4 Virginia-class submarines, USS Colorado, USS Indiana, USS South Dakota, and USS Delaware, had been positioning for 3 weeks. Not together. That would be too obvious. Spread across the Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, and Gulf of Oman. Each submarine carried dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles. But more importantly, each one was equipped with something Iran never expected: swimmer delivery vehicles. At 1,400 hours on June 20, 16 Navy SEALs launched from USS Colorado in miniature submarines. Their target, Iranian coastal radar stations near Bushehr. Not to destroy them, that would alert Tehran. To hack them. The SEALs infiltrated each station, planted sophisticated malware in the radar computers, then extracted without detection. Total time on target, 18 minutes. That malware sat dormant, waiting. When activated remotely, it would feed false data to Iranian air defense networks. Ghost tracks. Phantom formations. Complete chaos. One SEAL team leader told me later, and I'll never forget this: we were 12 miles inside Iranian territory, surrounded by guards, hacking into their most secure systems. I've done a lot of crazy things, but that was something else. Question: did you know SEALs could conduct missions like this? Comment below. At 1800 hours, everything started moving. Simultaneously, the 4 submarines began launching Tomahawks. Not 30 missiles from one sub, over 100 missiles from 4 different directions. The missiles flew low, terrain following, approaching Iran from unexpected vectors. But here's the brilliant part: not all those missiles carried warheads. 40% were decoys. Electronic warfare packages designed to mimic real Tomahawks. Iranian radar operators suddenly had over 100 contacts inbound. Which ones were real? Which were fake? They had minutes to decide. Simultaneously, the malware activated. Iranian radar screens went insane. False tracks everywhere. Bearings that made no sense. Speed calculations that defied physics. Air defense commanders were shouting contradictory orders. Launch against this formation. No, that one. Wait, they've disappeared. New contacts bearing. It was information warfare at its most devastating. And Iran was losing before the first bomb fell. At 1845 hours, an Iranian S-300 battery commander made a desperate decision. He launched blind, firing at what he thought was an incoming missile formation. His missiles hit empty sky. But launching revealed his position. An F-35 orbiting 80 miles away detected the launch, calculated the origin point, and transmitted coordinates to a submarine. 60 seconds later, a Tomahawk carrying a real warhead obliterated that S-300 battery. One panicked decision. $100 million destroyed. Have you ever been so overwhelmed with information you made the wrong choice? Share below. The 3 B-2s approached Iranian airspace at 1930 hours. Each bomber carried not 12 MOPs, but 4. And something else Iran never anticipated: AGM-158C URASM missiles. Long-range anti-ship missiles modified to strike land targets. Why the change? Intelligence from Nightingale revealed Fordow had emergency ventilation systems, massive air shafts that connected deep underground to the surface. Take out those shafts first, and everyone inside suffocates or evacuates. At 1935 hours, the first B-2 launched 8 URASM missiles from standoff range. The missiles dove toward Fordow, each one programmed to strike a specific ventilation shaft identified by Nightingale. The strikes were surgical. 8 explosions. 8 air shafts collapsed. Deep underground, alarms started screaming. Air quality sensors detected problems immediately. Emergency evacuation procedures activated. Hundreds of workers and technicians began flooding toward Exits, right as the mops started falling. At 1942 hours, the first massive ordnance penetrator struck Fordow. But this time, the Iranians were watching. A mobile radar unit that had remained silent suddenly transmitted, trying to track the bombers. An F-22 pilot saw it immediately and made a split-second decision: ignore the rules of engagement and engage. His AIM-120 missile destroyed the radar in under 10 seconds. But those 10 seconds were enough. Iranian Air Defense Headquarters got a snapshot: bearing, altitude, approximate speed. They knew the B-2s were there. This is where everything could have fallen apart. What would you have done? Comment your answer. Iranian commanders made their move. Every available fighter scrambled. MiG-29s, F-14s, even aging F-4 Phantoms. 70 aircraft total, everything Iran had that could fly. They weren't trying to shoot down the B-2s. They knew that was nearly impossible. But if they could force the bombers to abort, to turn back before dropping all their weapons, they could claim victory. American commanders watched the mass launch on satellite feeds. 70 fighters, climbing hard, vectoring toward the estimated B-2 positions. The F-22s and F-35s were ready. But engaging 70 fighters simultaneously? Even with superior technology, the math was brutal. Then someone had an idea that changed everything. The 4 B-2s at Diego Garcia, the decoys, were still sitting on the ground, fully fueled and armed. What if they launched now? Created a second threat axis from the south while Iranian fighters were focused north? It was insane. It violated every principle of the original plan. But the mission commander made the call. Launch Diego Garcia package. All aircraft weapons free. 4 B-2s roared into the sky at 1950 hours, racing toward Iranian airspace from a completely unexpected direction. This is what I love about real military operations: they never go according to plan. Agree? Comment below. At 1955 hours, Iranian fighters encountered something they didn't expect: a wall of AMRAAMs. F-22s and F-35s, positioned perfectly by prior planning, engaged from beyond. Visual range. Long-range missiles that Iranian pilots never saw coming. 14 fighters went down in the first 30 seconds. The formation broke apart in chaos. Some tried to retreat. Some pressed forward. None got close to the B-2s. Meanwhile, the original 3 bombers finished their runs. 12 MOPs total struck Fordow. Each one calculated to penetrate different sections, creating overlapping destruction zones. The 4 B-2s from Diego Garcia approached Natanz from the south. 8 more MOPs. The entire facility, above and below ground, was systematically destroyed. Isfahan got hit by the remaining Tomahawks, 60 missiles concentrating on conversion facilities and storage buildings. The explosions could be seen from orbit. At 2015 hours, all aircraft turned for home. Total time over target, 40 minutes. Iranian air defenses had fired over 200 surface-to-air missiles. They'd launched 70 fighters. They'd activated every radar and defense system they possessed. American losses: 1 F/A-18 Super Hornet hit by ground fire while suppressing air defenses. The pilot ejected safely over the Persian Gulf and was recovered by helicopter within 30 minutes. When dawn broke over Iran on June 21, the scale of destruction became clear. Fordow collapsed. 300 feet of mountain had come down on top of the facility. Every tunnel sealed. Every centrifuge destroyed. Years of enriched uranium buried under millions of tons of rock. Natanz, cratered. The above-ground buildings were gone. The underground sections were compromised. Radiation readings indicated damaged centrifuges had released contamination throughout the facility. Isfahan, burning wreckage. Every building damaged. Chemical fires still raging. The entire site would need to be demolished and decontaminated. But here's what struck me most: Nightingale transmitted one final message after the strikes. Just 3 words: thank you. Free. That source inside Iran's nuclear program wasn't just providing intelligence. They were sabotaging their own country's weapons program from the inside because they believed it was wrong. That takes a kind of courage I can't even imagine. What do you think? Drop your thoughts below. Operation Steel Resolve didn't just destroy 3 nuclear facilities. It proved something that needed proving. It showed that innovation matters more than numbers. That deception can be as powerful as firepower. That one person with courage, Nightingale, can change the course of history. 7 B-2 bombers. Over 100 cruise missiles. Dozens of fighters. Multiple submarines. And one incredibly brave individual on the inside. Together, they prevented a nuclear Iran. June 19-20th, 2025. 40 minutes over target. 3 facilities destroyed. One nation's nuclear ambitions ended. Here's what I need you to do. 1. Subscribe, because we're just getting started with these stories. 2. Comment telling me which part surprised you most. 3. Share this with someone who thinks they understand modern warfare. This community is growing every day. Your comments shape what I cover. Next. I read everything. I respond to dozens of you every video. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and never stop questioning what you think you know.